You kind of look like the stereotype of summer Swede.
I know. I'm like if you were to just not have seen anything else and you just took a snapshot of this video, would you be able to tell who the American was and who the Swedish person was? What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I've got a very special guest today, Fredrik the Swedish Cowboy. He's in the house. How I met Fredrik, we were at a 4th of July party at this really awesome barbecue place, and he was up there singing country music, and it was just one of the most authentic American experiences that you could possibly have, having the brisket, the pulled pork, all the great stuff, and then Fredrik up here was just killing it with the country music and everything. And I brought all my Swedish friends, and they're like, oh my god, I feel like we're in America right now. And I was so impressed with your performance. I was like, why don't you come on my channel and give us a little bit of a perspective? When did you start to get fascinated and interested in American culture and country music?
That'll be about 15 years ago. I met a Texan called Valerie. She introduced me to country music. She said, you need to listen to Blake Shelton's Southern Beach and get back to me and learn that song. And so I got back to her 12 hours later the next day when I woke up, and I went to her apartment. I said, I know the song now. She's like, what? That went fast. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll play it. I played it, and she just stopped afterwards and said, you know, Fred, you got to get to America. You have a talent that Sweden will never understand. And I was like, what do you mean by that? 15 years later, now I know what you meant about it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So we were all just blown away by especially the accent. You've got the accent that's very, very southern U.S., which, you know, I could try as an American, and I couldn't even pull off the accent that you've got. And you said that's just how you talk now, right?
Yeah, this is the way that I talk. I mean, I could do it worse if you want me to, but I won't do that. No.
Yeah, you know what?
I mean, this is the way that I talk. It's natural. I don't fake an accent or anything. It's just the way that I basically talk.
How'd you pick that up as somebody coming from the north of Sweden? How do you pick up an accent from the south of America? That's just the crazy part to me.
I guess you're sick of sounding like this, talking Swedish, English.
I guess, it sounds more authentic, I guess, when you got that, a
lot of YouTubing, a lot of watching interviews and stuff with your idols, and just picking up the accent from there, I guess.
Definitely. Yeah, there were some people from Dallas that I didn't know sitting next to me at this barbecue joint, and I'm going, as somebody from the northern U.S., I was like, I don't think I could tell this guy's Swedish. I don't think I could. So I asked these guys that sit next to me that from Dallas, I was like, can you tell this guy's the Swedish? Does he ever, break the accent? And they're like, he's like 99% on it. He's like, might slip up a little here, say something a little funny. But it's interesting because you had me fooled. But the people from Dallas, they were like, there's like that small part we can tell, like maybe from somewhere else.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I thought that was really, really funny. When was the first time that you actually came to America?
The first time was in 2009 or 10, something like that. I got invited to represent Sweden in the World Championship of Performing Arts. It's a I think it's one of the world's biggest talent shows in Los Angeles. And so I went there, and I came back with Golden Country Joiner, which is something I'm very proud of. It was bizarre because there were 50 countries involved there, and of course a lot of Americans there, and a lot of good country music singers.
Yeah.
And here I was there, I was about 18 years old, from north of Sweden. Howdy y'all, I'm Fred.
Yeah.
And they're like, who the is this? Who are you? Yeah. Where'd you get your accent from? Why do you dress like that? It was like I was some kind of a clown.
Yeah.
I didn't fit in there. But then again, I kind of sort of did.
Yeah.
And after the whole weekend there, they accepted me. They understood that I'm doing this for real. I'm doing it because I love it.
Yeah. For me personally, growing up in that more city, urban environment close to Portland, there was some people that would listen to country music in like the suburbs where I was from, but it wasn't like a big thing, especially in the north. It seems like, especially country music is bigger in like the rural areas in America.
Mm-hmm.
But where I went to school, when I went to college, like 6 hours away from Portland, was just in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by wheat fields, very agriculture communities, and there was definitely a lot more country music in those sorts of places. And it got me thinking, because you're from the north of Sweden, and I have lived in Norrköping before, but now I've spent most of the time here in Stockholm. And just like in America, there's different parts of Sweden, the culture in the north of Sweden is completely different than here in Stockholm. It's the same in the U.S. You can see the divide between rural communities and big cities.
Mm-hmm.
People on the channel are all the time, when I'm making these reflections about Sweden, comparing, Sweden to America, they're like, oh, that's not the real Sweden, that's only Stockholm.
Mm-hmm.
But as somebody that's from a different part of Sweden, what's your kind of take on, do you see some different comparisons between Sweden and America being from that other part of Sweden?
Well, I've always thought that the north of Sweden is the wood. It's the wheat fields, the big fields, and the open woods. All you see is trees, and open acres of fields and stuff. And of course, cattle, horses, pigs, stuff like that. Not a lot of skyscrapers, not where I come from.
No.
And if you go down south, you see the skyscrapers, like where we're at now, Stockholm.
Yeah.
We're probably sitting in the skyscraper right now. I don't know.
I mean, this is maybe a 3-story building, but for you, maybe.
Yeah, it kind of looks like one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and if you go to America, America's a very big country, obviously, but if you talk about the South, you're oftenly referring to countryside, which is, the ranches, the cattle, the horses, and stuff like that, open fields, and Texas is a big open field state. It's very open. I've gone through it with a car, and it's very flat.
Yeah,
there's not a lot.
Takes a long time.
If you go up north to NY, New York City, skyscrapers.
Yeah,
big town people.
Definitely. Yeah, it's completely different vibe in those different places. So it's almost like the north of Sweden, sort of like the south of the U.S.
Yeah,
and vice versa. Especially if you look at the East Coast. Where you can kind of flip, like you got the big Boston, New York, Philadelphia, these bigger cities in the north. A lot more rural areas in the southern states, it seems like.
I remember now, that was the funny thing, and when I was in Dallas and down there in Austin and Nashville, they kept asking me about where I was from because they didn't believe me. I had to show my ID 98% of the times. I have a pink Swedish ID. Here it is, there you go. And they're like, what? I grew up in the north. Well, what's the north like? Well, I grew up in a farm with my granddaddy and my grandmother, because my mom and dad was working all the time. Every now and then I rode in my daddy's truck down south and north. He was driving horses. And that's how I grew up. And on the wintertime, we got about 40 minus Celsius, down to 40 minus. Wow. That's a lot Fahrenheit. I don't know the Fahrenheit conversion, but it's cold.
Minus 40, yeah.
And you get about like 2 meters of snow, the most. And the interesting part about that is the American people from the South then, that had ranches and cattle and stuff, they were asking me about how do you take care of your horses and stuff. Well, you mean you got to build the buildings after how it looks, what the weather is like and stuff like that. So you got to build the roof more stable and stuff like that. So it's easy. To me it's obvious.
Yeah.
I grew up like that. That's the way it is. Yeah. But they couldn't understand how you can go from 40 plus Celsius to 40 minus and have a cattle ranch and have horses and pigs and take care of them.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah,
you just put heat in it.
That's crazy. So as a Swede that liked American culture and eventually came to America and got to see what it was like there, what were like the biggest things that surprised you when you first came there?
How big it was.
Yeah.
You talking the first time when I came in 2009, 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I landed in LAX. And I remember flying in, we flew over to the Grand Canyon. I saw the Grand Canyon from above. Never been there. We'll go there in the future.
Yeah.
Landed there in LAX, went off the plane, and I was like, this is big. And I went outside and took one of them cabs down to downtown. Lived down in the Western Bonaventure back then. That's where the big competition was.
Okay.
And I was just walking down the street there downtown, and I was looking up at the skyscrapers, getting a stiff neck. I was like, wow, this is big.
Yeah.
And I felt this small. It took me a couple days or 3 days to actually realize, Fred, you're not that small. Just keep aiming for it.
Yeah.
But it definitely broke me down to zero, brought me down on my knees, like, don't think you're someone, don't believe it.
Scale in America is nuts.
Yeah.
Here people think Stockholm is a big city. And for Swedish standards, it is pretty big. But you go to the big cities in America and you're like, whoa. Where I'm from, Portland is roughly the same size as Stockholm. And Portland's the 28th largest city in America. So there's like 27 other ones that are larger than Stockholm. And when you get to that top 10, top 5, it's really blows you away how big everything is.
You got airports bigger than towns in Sweden.
Yeah, it's true.
Look at O'Hare.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Jeez, it takes an hour just to walk from one side of the airport to the other. But then also distances. You did road trips in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Sweden's actually a sneaky large country. Because I made a comment in a previous video about Luleå. I didn't know, I got Luleå and Umeå mixed up, so I was like, oh, maybe it's 5-6 hour drive up there, and all these people from Luleå in the comments, no, it's more like 9 or 10 hours. So Sweden is sneaky large, especially when you get up to the north, but America is another beast with that. I mean, from one side of the U.S. to the next. What was the longest road trip you ever did in America?
Driving myself?
Yeah, or you were on a bus for a long while.
Yeah, I took a bus from Dallas to L.A. That was about 32 hours.
Yeah, and that's about half.
Yeah.
Because Texas is in the middle, LA's on the west.
Yeah.
So.
The longest I've driven was Nashville to Dallas.
Okay.
It took me about 8 hours, I think.
Okay.
And I remember I was going to get up early and drive early in the morning to have daylight. I ended up driving at 8. Yeah. Right when the sun went down. Saw nothing.
Yeah. Oh my.
I just put on a good country music radio list and just drove with the Silverado.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Longest trip I ever did, we got family in Nebraska. So we did Nebraska, Omaha to all the way to Portland. And that was a 26 hours. We did it in 3 days. I wanted to do it in 2. I was in a hurry to get home. My grandma wanted to take her time, drive through Utah, get a nice hotel. I was like, let's just go home. But yeah, you really have an appreciation. And then after that road trip, I'm like, can we just fly? Next time, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. What do you think is the biggest difference between Swedish people and American people?
Well, the absolute biggest difference is I mean, in general, we are very polite and we are very well, you know. I guess the funniest thing is how you talk in America. How you do it, and how are you? And if you're a Swede, you go to America and you come up to an American person and they say, "How are you?" Well, you know, my kids aren't doing very well, and my grandma she just died. But, I just got a new job, so I'm kind of positive now. How are you?
The American is like, wait, what?
They don't understand that. You know, the Swedish people don't understand that you're just supposed to answer, "How are you?"
Yeah. Good.
Answer back with a question.
How are you?
Why do you do that? How are you? Good. How are you?
Yeah. Well.
Wait a minute. What? Did you just answer it with a question again?
Yeah. Well, I had a comment because I always start my videos like, "What's up, guys?" or like, "How's it going?" or like stuff like this, and people are like, "Why do you always ask us a question when you start your video?" It's like, I don't know, just the normal polite thing to do, I guess.
If you do that in Sweden, you're gonna get a good sentence of explaining what's up.
Yeah. Well,
they're gonna tell you what's up.
It might be better because it helps you get a real conversation.
Oh
Anyway, whereas I think a lot of times we have this kind of rap in America where it's like it's kind of this surface level interactions. Like when you go to the store, people are super polite, they're wanting to help you out and all this sort of things. Whereas in Sweden, there just is a lot less of that small talk in general. So that when Swedish people do talk, it's normally like about deeper stuff, or they'll just fill up the air with like, "Oh, how's the weather?" You know?
That's right.
That's the normal one, it seems like.
Well, I gotta say, the mentality of the northern people of Sweden and Tennessee is pretty like, especially Nashville. It's called the volunteer state, of course, and being there for a month or a little bit more than a month, I realized that it feels like home. Yeah. The people there are awesome. They're really friendly and they're greeting you and they're asking how you are really. If you get to know them. It's not like you're walking downtown and up comes a guy asking about your life situation. But if you get to know a couple friends, they care about you.
Do you think it's easier to get to know people in America versus Sweden?
Well, I guess that has a lot more to do with you as a person, I guess. I have no trouble learning, getting new friends and how do you say that? Learning new friends. That was not the right word I was looking for.
Getting to know new people.
Yeah, getting to know new people, exactly. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm very social. I'm not very shy.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I have a lot of people that move to Sweden that watch my content, and they're saying to break into the social circles in Sweden is so difficult because it seems like that people have their friends, and a lot of times they can tend to be closed off to outsiders more so, I'd imagine.
Well, in the north, that's not a problem. If you're from America coming to the north, you're kind of exotic. You'll be the guy that the girl's looking at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you heard it here first.
So, but where I come from is a little small town. We got about 50,000 people there, which is not a lot compared to Stockholm. But I mean, everybody knows everybody there. And if you were to go there, you'd be, the center of attention.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Do you think people in the north of Sweden are friendlier than the Stockholmers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't met every Stockholmer. One of my nearest, dearest best friends, who actually is one of the most charismatic, down to earth, humble person I've ever met, is from Stockholm. Yeah. So I'm not going to say that the Stockholm people is very,
we can't generalize overall.
No, of course not.
But when I'm talking about like Swedish people tend to be reserved or maybe a little bit more closed off at times. Maybe I haven't been to the north of Sweden yet, so maybe that's just completely different where it is in the north.
Well, generally, yeah. Generally speaking, I'd say we're more open. welcome. Yeah. Welcome to my home. There's not a problem if you knock on somebody's door. They'll help you out if you're in trouble or anything like that. Yeah, they'll help you out with open arms.
Yeah, and all the people that I've met from the north of Sweden tend to be that way. They of course we're generalizing again, but people from I've met people from Kiruna. I've met people from Luleå, Umeå. And all of them seem to be like really cool people that I've met so far. So I'll have to make a trip up there eventually.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of this Stockholm Stress, as they call it. I mean, everybody's walking in their own little bubble. Yeah. And staring down at the floor or at the phone, on the subway station and stuff like that. If you go to this, we don't have a subway station in the north. We got one train station, which is 40 kilometers to the west in Älvsbyn, or actually 50 kilometers north in Luleå. Yeah. We don't have a train station where I come from. We've got a bus station though. If you go there, I mean, if you're in the waiting area there and there's 10 other people, you'll know every single one of them as soon as your bus comes. Yeah. Because that's just how it is in a small town like that. If you go to the bus station here, you're not going to get a hi from anybody.
No. And if you make eye contact with people, they're like, what are you doing?
They're like,
look away immediately.
That's what actually makes me a little sad down here because, I mean, I like to talk to people. I like to get to know people, but it's not that easy. Yeah. I mean, of course, I can be the guy that just, I dress like this every day, even though it's cold or warm. And I've got my guitar on my back with no guitar case. Yeah. And I could just stand on Odenplan just for fun, playing my guitar and singing out loud. And there'll be a crowd around me, But that's just the way that I am. Yeah. I've been to so many random after parties at 3 a.m. in the morning in Stockholm because I've had my guitar out, Yeah. And met a lot of new friends, actors also, artists from Sweden. Yeah. And but that's just the way that I am. That's the way I was raised. Yeah. Don't be scared to get to know new people.
Yeah, you just got to put yourself out there.
One thing though about the north is, I mean, it was a little town I grew up in, and obviously when I entered the gymnasium, I was dressing like this. I was dressed up as a cowboy because that's the way that I'm comfortable. I grew up on a ranch. This is who I am basically. Yeah. And the people there didn't like it. The people I hung out with there, I was kind of bullied, I guess, or not kind of. I was bullied. Yeah. Because it wasn't very popular. I dressed with a cowboy hat and shirt and boots and stuff like that, and everybody else was cool and hip hop music and generally speaking those kind of stuff. And there was a lot of Avicii and that kind of music going on. Yeah. And so I was bullied, and that's the thing that I do not like about a little small town because when you're kind of odd, you might be kicked out, kicked outside because they don't like those kind of things. But then again, it's really not like that also. But that's what happened to me in high school in gymnasiet. I was bullied. But that's also what shaped me as a person, as an artist today. I try to help as many people as I can with my music, and I try to get that out when I'm playing too. That I was the bullied guy in high school. I was the guy that people were making fun of. But here I am now, sitting here with you, talking about my life story and who I am.
And it really shows in your music the comfort you have on stage, the passion for what you're doing. It really, really stood out to me, and all my friends and I, we really, really enjoyed it. So, I was like, we gotta have you on. And if you want to check him out, I'll link his Instagram down below. Swedish Cowboy, right? The Swedish Cowboy. Perfect Instagram name for what you're doing. If you like country music, definitely give him a listen. Really cool. Thanks for coming on today.
Anytime. Pleasure's all mine.
It was awesome to have you. You guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.